This here is called a swimming anemone. So swimming anemones also don't like to be disturbed, just like our red octopus. And if they are being attacked by any animal, they'll actually release their foot, which is right here, that's grabbing onto the rocks. And they'll use it like if you're on a swing set where you use your feet to push yourself back and forth. That's what they will do, but they will swim with it to a new spot. No animals to go. Really cool here with our octopus, but we'll check back in with her because she might wake up from her nap. We put some food in here, so we're trying to get her to come out to say hello. But speaking of things that have come out to say hello to our grunt sculpin. So grunt sculpins are a super cool fish that have kind of transferred their fins from the side of their body to below their body, and they use them for more of skipping and pushing off the rocks. And so sometimes they will even use those fins to try to hold themselves inside of a barnacle shell. So not only does our octopus live inside a barnacle shell, but so do our grunt sculpins. And these grunt sculpins cannot change their color like the octopus can to blend in. However, they do have some of that camouflage on the outside that's brownish, so it kind of looks like the rocks around them. But they are trying to pretend to be a giant barnacle. And giant barnacles are alive. They're a super cool creature that also helps clean our water. And I'm checking to see if our barnacle over here is feeding yet. It is not feeding, but do you see this inside right here that's a little brown and orange and white? Kind of like our fish over here, orange, brown, and white. This is a live giant barnacle. And so that's what the fish is pretending to be. And so, oh, it's moving a little bit back there. And so it pretends to sit inside an old barnacle shell, pretending to actually be the barnacle and hopes to get food. And one other animal that is hoping to get food keeps following my finger, hoping that I'll feed him. This is called a pinpoint gunnel. So a pin, just like the thing that you can write with, and a gunnel just means a long, slender fish. So this is not an eel, it's a fish or a gunnel. And so it's got these little fins on the front of it that help it to swim and move around. And so you can see this one right here is bright green. And then we've got a few more in the back there. Those ones are crescent gunnels, so they come in a variety of colors. So again, they're not going to change their colors. Most fish tend to stay the same color. They're not like the cool octopus or squids, but they do come in a variety of colors. So they'll come in brown and green and orange. Definitely hungry and looking for some food. One animal that does have some food right now, say hello to our red urchin. So right here is crab. So you can see doublets here. And so what it's doing is moving the food from the, these are called spines. So not like the spine in your back, but spines like a pokey spine. They grab the food with those spines and then slowly move it to their mouth, which is in the center here. And so we're going to take a look out of its mouth. That centerpiece, you can see all of those little spots moving there. Those are actually little shrimp. So I'll try to eat those little shrimp too. But our urchins have 5 teeth in the center, and they act like they're forks and knives because they have no hands. And they slowly crunch up all of that crab leg by using those very sharp teeth in the center there. All right, let's hop over to some other animals that are eating, that are pretty good at camouflaging themselves. So say hello to the duck shrimp. These shrimp get their name because you can usually find them hiding on the docks and their pilings that are. So these are what it would look like, are usually anchored to or tied up. They're really good at camouflaging. But if you look at them, they're really pretty colors that are all stripes to help them blend in with all of the algae. And so dock shrimp will have called the spotted prawns, and they will have spots instead of stripes. But I know you were also learning about bioluminescence and glowing. Some of our animals also have some glowing capabilities. We call it iridescence. And so that's when their light that is shined on them will change them colors. So you can see they're slightly changing colors to blue here. And that's because they've got what is basically sparkles on the outside of their body. And if the sparkles get flashed with light on top of them, they will start to shine different colors here. Another animal that came to say hello, along with the dock shrimp over here that are eating, the dock shrimp are actually eating brine shrimp right now. That long, slender fish in the back, these are called pipefish because they're long and slender like a pipe is. And all of these fish are really good at camouflaging. So this is called eelgrass. And eelgrass is a plant, but if you look closely, there's actually an animal hiding in that eel. And that is our pipefish. So they've learned still so that animals don't see them, because these small fish are snacks for a lot of bigger fish out there. You can see this big one back here too. So they're kind of slow with moving. They only use that one back fin. And so with one fin, you can't really swim all that fast or navigate or churn really well. All right, let's go over to one of my favorite tanks so that we can talk about another creature that will glow. So you can see this tank is kind of glowing already. So we've got this really cool animal that is part animal and part plant. Anybody know what this animal is? You can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. But anybody know what this green animal is? Yes, a sea anemone. And so this one is called a green surf anemone because one, they're green, but also they live in the surf, which means waves. And so these have a really cool thing called a symbiotic relationship, which do things or get something good out of it. And so this animal here is green because of the algae that's inside its body. That algae basically lives in there and is kind of like a renter. So they are going to pay this anemone here in sugar. So this anemone doesn't actually have to eat. The green plant inside of its body gives it sugar to eat. So imagine if you had a plant inside your body that gave you cookies every day to eat. I think some of us would be really happy about that. But that plant then gets to survive and nothing can eat it because it's hiding inside the body of this animal here. So they both are happy, which means it's a symbiotic relationship. But because of that green algae, it also makes it glow. So that's why it's bright green compared to like this white color over here. So bright green usually means there's an algae inside, which is really cool. And so with our anemones here in our touch tanks, you can actually touch them. And so I like to give them a handshake. I take my hand, I touch their hand or their tentacles here and give them a nice little handshake. And you can see that they're sticking to me. So you all learned about squid and their tentacles. Their tentacles are a little bit different. Their tentacles have sticky parts at the end of them, whereas our anemones have sticky parts all the way down the tentacles. So this one is actually sticking to me. And so if I'm done saying hello to it, I just wave goodbye and it lets me go. So some animals have tentacles that they are using to grab food. Some are using tentacles for defense or to keep them away from them. And so we've got some really cool animals here. Again, very glowing in this tank. But we've got, these are called feather duster worms. And they have these tentacle-like eyelashes on the outside of their body. So this is how they grab food, but it's also their warning system. So if I was to get too close to it, whoop, there it goes. It sees me coming and it thinks I'm going to eat it, so it hides away. Let's try this again with our other one over here. So the feeding tentacles also have eyes on them. Let's see if I can get close, and it's gone. And so if you give it a few minutes, they'll actually pop back out because they're going to try to eat again. But if any animal, say like this crab over here that's camouflaging really well, decides to come over here and try to eat the worm, that worm is going to hide and take its eyelashes with it. All right, let's see if I can. Oh, there's one right there. So another animal that has a tentacle, but the tentacles are actually their tongue. It's called a spaghetti worm. So if you see these little strings right here, these are the tongues of the worm that's hiding inside this hole right here. And so it'll cast the tongues, its tentacles, out into the water, hoping to grab some delicious food. And then it reels its tongue in just like a fishing line, and then slurps off that food off of its tentacle and then throws the fishing line or its tongue right back out to grab some more food. So lots of cool stuff that uses tentacles for grabbing food. But we do have other animals, like these ones in here, that have arms. So octopus have arms, and these sea stars also have arms. But their arms are used a little different from octopus. So at the tips of these sea stars' hands, that is where their eye is. So these ones are actually currently staring at us. Wave hello to the sea stars. Say hello. So these sea stars have 5 arms. So if they have an eye on each tip of their arm, and they've got 5 arms, how many eyes do you think these sea stars have? You can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. How many eyes do you think these sea stars have?
They have 5 legs. And like
yes!
One eye in the middle of
yes, so they have. Ooh, so that's a good guess. So we do have 5 eyes because we've got 5 arms. And somebody said, oh, there's an eye in the middle. This is actually a madreporite, which means that's how they get the water inside their bodies. So that's not how they see, but it's how they pump water into their bodies so that they can keep moving and crawling, because they don't actually have blood inside their body that moves their muscles. It's water that moves their muscles. So if you ever see a sea star out of the water and it's really, really sunny and hot, you can move them back into the cold water and they'll start moving again. Basically out of water and can't move anymore. All right, let's go to, this is called a California sea cucumber, which is actually a sea star's cousin. They also have some feet, not arms, but feet. And all of their feet are down below. And then they've got these spikes at the top of them. I'm going to show you a really up close one. So down below, we've got all of these feet that help it to move. And then we've got all of these spikes on top too. However, they do have tentacles, and they're right here in the mouth. They're called buccal tentacles. And it basically just means mouth tentacles. And that's how they scrape algae off of rocks, or in this case, the side of the tank. So they play patty cake. They'll pat their hand onto it, grab the food, lick it off, pat their hand onto the food, grab it, lick it off. And so let's see, these ones are slowly coming out here. And you can see how many tentacles. Can you count how many tentacles this sea cucumber has? Any guesses? How many tentacles? What do we think?
5.
I've got 1, 5. You think there's 5?
Like 20.
Anybody else have a guess? It is a lot. Yes. Oh, well, it's pulling its buccal tentacles back in, so we can't count all of them. But there is a lot of them because these animals, just this one animal, can eat all the algae inside this big tank here in one day. So these are super cleaners. We learned about the sponges cleaning the water. Well, these ones clean the sand. And after they're done, because they're eating the algae in the sand, they actually poop the sand back out. So all of this clean sand in here is thanks to our sea cucumbers. So pooping out clean sand is their job. Ooh. So I was talking about the spaghetti worm. Look at all of its tongues. Can you count how many tongues this spaghetti worm has?
No, but I'm guessing it's 20 or 30.
20 or 30? I would guess so too. That's a really good guess. 20 or 30? Yep. Lots of tongues grabbing food. All right. So going back over here to our big tank, in here, we also have a lot of different anemones. So we were talking about the bright green ones having algae inside their body. We also have the red ones. Red ones don't have an algae inside their body, but they're trying to attract food to it. So being these bright colors, it makes animals want to go to them. And so these are going to be eating fish and crabs. And so when you give them a handshake, their tentacles are much bigger than our anemones that have algae in them. So you can see how small these tentacles are compared to our big ones over here. So this is eating bigger food, and this is eating smaller food. And then we have some anemones that are eating even the smallest of foods, and these are called filter feeders, which means they're taking out the tiny pieces of food that's in the water, just like the sponges, and they're eating it. So these are called plumose anemones because it looks like they have plumes of feathers, kind of like a bird. And these ones are the softest. And they don't really stick to you because they don't need the big sticky tentacles to grab on. They just need tentacles to hold their food and grab it and put it in their mouth. So that's what they're doing right now, is they're folding inward to push all of the nummy stuff that was off of my fingers because I've been touching fish. So they probably tasted all the yummy fish on my fingers. And they're going to pull that stuff right down into their stomach, which is this piece. So basically they're just a stomach and fingers. And then when they're eating, they look rolled up just like this one in the back here. So if you see an anemone all rolled up and no tentacles showing, you want to leave it alone because it's digesting food. But if they're out like this, feel free to give them a little handshake. All right. One last thing, because we've got a small group of them, say hello to the hermit crabs, which also clean our sand. So they will try to get the scraps or the leftovers of the food from other animals. So you'll see them digging through the sand, eating small little pieces here and there. And these ones are called grainy hand hermit crabs. They've got fuzzy little hands. All right, does anybody have any questions? You can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself. All right, well, while you think of your questions, we're going to see another animal that kind of glows, but definitely has tentacles. Say hello to our moon jellies. Today they're glowing orange because they were fed orange shrimp. So you can actually change the colors of jellyfish by giving them different colored food. All steady, and you can actually peanut butter and they will survive. So you just make a peanut butter and jellyfish. But we don't feed them peanut butter here. We feed them delicious shrimp. And you can see they use their tentacles here for grabbing the small pieces of plankton that are floating in the water, the small shrimp. And then they use these little, they're almost like rivers. They're rivers of food that go straight to their mouth or their stomach. But does anybody have any questions?
Ariel, how old do you think your octopus is? And will she get bigger?
Yes. So our octopus, let's go check to see if she's up from her nap or not. So our octopus right now is about the size of a golf ball. She's still sleeping. So you see our plumose anemone, that's about as big as she is right now. And she will get up to 6 inches across. So right now she's about that small, and she'll get as big as my hand when she is about 2 years old. Right now we think she's about a year old, and then these octopus only live to about 3 years. Any other questions?
Why? How do you have any eels?
So we have one animal that is called an eel, but she's technically not an eel. Let's see if I can get her face to come out. I have to tease her that I'm going to feed her. There she is. So say hello to Q. Q is called a wolf eel, but she's not a wolf or an eel. So she's got sharp teeth like a wolf does. And they think, or back in the day when they called them eels, they thought they were eels because they're long and skinny like an eel, but they have a fin up by their head called a pectoral fin, which makes this a fish and not an eel. Eels don't have any pectoral fins on their side. So technically, Washington has no saltwater eels here. We have wolf fishes. But this is baby Q. She's about 2 feet long, and she likes to hide in her den taking a nap, just like our octopus, unless we're trying to feed her. And that's why she came out, as I pretended I was going to feed her.
Cool.
Any other questions?
What is your favorite fish you have at the aquarium?
Ooh, that is a really good but really tough question. I would have to say right now, because it changes all the time, I'm going to show you these really cool fish. So this is called a spiny lump sucker. Do you see the fish that's swimming at the top here? So these fish are really small. So you can see that it's about the size of my thumb here, but their teeth are on the outside of their body. So all of those little spines on the outside of this fish are actually teeth. And they've got a really cool thing called a suction cup. So on the bottom of them, if she will turn around, she won't turn around for us to see her suction cup. But that's how they stick to things, is they've got a suction cup on the bottom of their bodies. Let's see if I can get This one is called the Green Goblin. I'm going to see if I can get her to sit on my finger. Nope. I was going to show you the suction cups. But they're heart shapes, little hearts on their bellies. So this would have to be my favorite fish right now, are called the spiny lumpsuckers.
Well, I like octopuses and squids.
Ooh. So if you like squid, on November 29th, we will have squid here at the aquarium for you to see. We will also have some story time about squids that the library will do. We'll have a squid coloring sheet so you can add squid to our running of the squid exhibit. And then if you are interested, we also have squid dissection so you can learn all about what's inside a squid too. But is there any last questions? All right, one last check on our octopus just to see if she's up from her nap or not.